Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jackie and this is Jackie is Making, a place where I talk all about the knit garments, accessories, and sometimes sewing projects that I have going on. And today I have a really fun episode because I actually have 4 finished objects to show to you. I also have 2 swatches. I have some yarn acquisitions. I don't even know how many whips. I've kind of just been in this like transition phase of obviously like casting off 4 different things, kind of swatching, seeing like what I want to be like my first projects that I'm gonna knit like from my fall knitting plans video, and then also just like prioritizing some of the projects that I already had on the needles. So yeah, that's everything that we are going to be talking about today. And the first thing that I really wanted to talk with you about is what I'm wearing. This is like my big finished object. This is the Harlow V-neck sweater. And I made this out of 1 strand of 100% alpaca. It was a sport weight yarn held with a lace weight mohair, the Knitting for Olive mohair, and together it knit up into this really beautiful kind of like beigey taupey sort of fabric that almost ended up with a little bit of a marled effect. So if you see it up close, you can a little bit see that core of the mohair kind of shining through, which I think gives it like a little bit of dimension and makes it feel a little bit special. But this sweater is a drop neck V-neck sweater. It has some 2x2 rib features with a folded over and then like sewn down collar. And then some of the ribbings are a little bit longer. So these are almost to 5 inches, same with the bottom hem. And then there's also a split hem at the bottom. Otherwise, the rest of the sweater is just knit up in stockinette. And yeah, I'm like honestly patting myself on the back for wearing this right now. It's still like very warm in Wisconsin. So the weather we had like a little tiny bit of a fake fall, and now we're kind of back into those upper 80s, and hopefully it'll swing back down. But yeah, it's gonna be a little bit toasty in here, so we'll see if I end up wearing this the whole podcast episode. But what's fun about filming this like a couple weeks after I finished it is now I've been able to wear it a few times and just see like a little bit more than just a typical first impression. And I have to say, at first I was worried that I wasn't gonna like it because if you've ever blocked alpaca before, it's quite scary because it stretches so much. And so when I put it in the water, you can immediately like feel the fabric sort of drape and take on the water. And then as it was drying, I think I had it sitting out for a full 2 days to block and dry. And I was just like, oh my gosh, just like constantly felt so wet. And I do feel like alpaca in general as a fiber generally has a more like wet feeling to me. And this was no exception. So yeah, after the 2 days, I kind of like picked it up. I was moving it around. I wanted to try it on, and it still felt kind of, just ever so slightly like maybe it was still like a 5% damp. And so it's felt weighty on me, and did feel like it had stretched a little bit. And so it worried me because the sleeves were going really long. And I was just like, oh no, like what did I do? What did I make? Is this going to be like too much of a drapey mess essentially? And I really just needed to be more patient, let it fully dry. So I think sometimes in my brain, I'm like, there's absolutely no possible way something could take 2 whole days to dry, but it absolutely can, especially like I didn't have fans on it or anything. I have some friends that like to, my friend Courtney calls it her wind tunnel, where she'll like put her item down and put like fans all around it, and she can block things really fast. But one of the perks of moving this past summer is I still have no idea where some things are. It's like, I know where it was in my old house, but in this new house, no idea where that fan is. So for right now, I'm blocking fanless until I find it. But yeah, so I was scared because I tried it on and the sleeves were so long. But once I finally gave it the time it needed, I repicked it up. And then I tried it on in a manner that I would wear it. Like, for instance, I've been enjoying wearing it with just like a simple white t-shirt underneath it, just because it does have a very deep V-neck. So if you didn't do that, I would usually wear like maybe like a camisole underneath it, or just something else, just because I don't really have undergarments that totally work with this, because the fabric is a little bit more of an open gauge, and so I'm just more comfortable wearing something underneath it. And I just kind of like this look as well with a white t-shirt. It's one of my favorites. I absolutely love, like if I ever make a video of like my top things to pair with hand knits, white t-shirts are my absolute favorite, like kind of these more fitted ones. The ribbed are my favorite, and I like to especially keep them like this is my older women in my audience will know, separate your whites. Some of us younger women, maybe we're just like, it's fine, just like throw it all in the laundry together. But like, I don't know if I'm preaching to the choir or if, you know, whatever. I used to not do this, but ever since I do separate my whites, and I'll put like an OxiClean Oxygen whitener packet in there. It just keeps my white t-shirt so crisp and so nice. And I feel like the nice whiteness just pairs really well with a hand knit. So that's my little trick I'm throwing into this video. And definitely, yeah, just like one of my must-haves for my knitwear. So that's how I am wearing it today. And you can see there are like this with the fold over neck. It's just a unique aspect to this sweater. I noticed looking at the projects on Ravelry, depending on what sort of yarn you use, you can get a little bit more bulk up here with that fold over. So that's something to note when you're selecting yarn for this knit. I've seen a ton of people use heavier weights of yarns for this, because I think what's really nice about it being a little bit more of an open gauge is you can go up in yarn and still hit gauge. It's just not going to be as like lightweight and flowy, but you're still going to be able to hit gauge. But then I feel like certain aspects of the sweater are going to look a little bit different. So just note that when you're looking through projects on Ravelry, you'll notice there is some more bulk to the sweater if you do knit it that way. I love that I used kind of the recommended recipe of a sport weight plus a lace weight. I did use alpaca, however, which does it just is going to behave differently than a wool would have. But I think that I'm very happy with the way that it turned out in like how I'm going to wear it in this sort of oversized drapey sort of manner. I did want to mention to you as well, and I'll obviously throughout this as well have some B-roll of me wearing this sweater, but there is a really fun detail here that has, you start the sweater with an I-cord, and then you're picking up stitches from the I-cord, both when you're doing that sort of back panel, and then also when you're picking up the sleeves, and then again when you're picking up the collar, you're always picking up from that I-cord. So it leaves you like with this really pretty detail. The only thing that is a little bit disappointing to me when looking at this detail is some of my German short rows, I think I'm not tugging the yarn enough when I'm knitting into my double stitch, or maybe I'm not pulling it over further enough. And I learned this because when looking at my garment, some of those stitches just look a little bit bigger. And so I can tell, you know, like that's where I did the short rows. And because of that slip stitch look from that I-cord, I feel like your eye goes right to it. So that's a little bit disappointing to me, just with the nature of this fabric. It's not super forgiving, versus I feel like in the past when I've done that with a wool yarn that's maybe bloomed a little bit more or been a different gauge, it hasn't been as obvious to me that maybe I'm not tugging on those short rows enough. And I use that language, the tugging, because I've recently been reading Patty Lyon's Knitting Tricks, her what is it, Knitting Bag of Tricks book, and actually just finished it. Not quite finished it, because there are certain chapters in the book that I just kind of skimmed through to be like, okay, when I have a need to read that or to go back, I'm going to then pick it up and kind of go through that section. And I also got a workbook to go along with it, and I kind of want to do it in tandem whenever I'm working through that sort of section. But I do know there is one whole section about kind of making your short rows look a little bit neater, and she talks about that double stitch section and tugging it, and perhaps if I find it, I can put it up on the screen for you all if you're interested. But yeah, that's just like a short tangent real quick to just know I'm really loving that book. I feel like I've already been having so many good takeaways. I think when I finish more from the workbook, I'll do a video on its own featuring just like some of my favorite tips, because I do think it is been like super helpful for me to just have like little tips and tricks. And I kind of feel like it's not titled the best, calling it a bag of tricks. I honestly feel like it should be titled like the basics of knitting, and like just all about like becoming a more efficient or skilled knitter. I think she says a lot in the book like, hey, I'm not the one that came up with these sort of things, although I think some concepts she did come up with on her own, but she kind of just prefaces the whole thing just saying, you know, this is not the only way, but this is what works for me, which is perhaps how she came up with that title. But for me, it's been just like really eye-opening to a lot of different concepts. So more to come on that maybe in a future video. But yeah, all that to say, that's like probably the one part I'm maybe the least unhappy with on this sweater, is just when I see that it doesn't look super, super neat. And then also just with how big this neckline is, it does go down a fair amount in the back, as well as in the front, kind of depending on how far, like look at, dear, you can really kind of pull it down depending on how you're wearing it. And so it really is that oversized sort of fit. And so I just want you to be aware of that is what you're knitting, and that is what I was hoping to achieve with this. So I am pleased with that aspect. I will note as well, I have quite a few episodes talking about this sweater and more as I went through the process of knitting it. And everything I'm talking about today is just kind of like what I can remember as I'm wearing it right now. But yeah, I think in general, I am pleased with this sweater. I'm excited to wear it a little bit more. When I wore it at work this week, I had multiple compliments on it, and then I said, you know, of course, the thank you, like I made this, and they were like, no way. I did have one person ask if I made it because she knew that I knit, but it's always fun to get a compliment on a sweater when people don't even know that you knit too, and just like you feel like your work was successful in that manner. But yeah, it's very, very warm. I thought it might have been a little bit more cool with the gauge being a little bit more open, but I feel like just with that alpaca and the mohair combo, it's super warm, and it's just going to be a really nice layering piece for this fall. Okay, so yeah, that's everything with the Harlow V-neck sweater. I do think this is something that I would honestly knit again. There are aspects of it that take longer than I would have expected. For instance, like 5 inches of ribbing, man, that takes a really long time. And then with the neckline, since you're doing it folded over, you are, you're knitting it twice as long. So that takes longer. You're also picking up in every single stitch. So it's more stitches, than sometimes other necklines would be. And then with the V-neck, you're just also having to pay more attention. There is the split hem. So, things like that make this sweater very special, but I'm just saying it all to note. There are things that took longer when I kind of wanted it to be finished. It was just those little attention to detail things that took a little bit longer. It honestly kind of made it a special sweater. So that is everything with this. Now let me tell you all about, I have 2 finished hats. All right, so I have 2 finished hats here, both with this like gorgeous blue theme going on. And this first one that I have here, I just mentioned in my last podcast episode, I made this for my grandma who is currently dealing with cancer and maybe losing her hair. And so she's sensitive to wool, so I knit this out of a superwash and had her feel it, and it feels pretty good to her now. But I did have a suggestion from a viewer on my last video that if it is still sensitive to her, to maybe sew in a satin lining once she would not have hair anymore. And so that's absolutely something I'm going to keep in mind and will do if she needs it. And so I knit this by holding 2 strands of Madeline Tosh Merino light yarn. And this was a one-of-a-kind colorway. And I first cast it on for the adult small size because that was kind of like the head measurements that I was given for my grandma. And my gauge, I didn't gauge swatch. I just cast it on, and absolutely my gauge was just so off. It was way bigger than I thought it was supposed to be. And so immediately I had to frog it. I had like maybe this much done and had to completely frog it. And I actually ended up using AI to help me do some math. I have a couple of AI accounts that I use like through work, so I'm familiar with using them. And I kind of talked to it and just said like, hey, like here is my current gauge, here is the recommended gauge, and I really want it to fit this size. Can you help me do some math? And you know, I know some of you are haters of AI. I hate to tell you that it's the future. I already have these programs through work, and so and it is immensely helpful with certain math things if that's not your strong suit. And so, you know, I'm not going to be the one to tell you to use it or not to use it. That's your own value judgment. But for me, it was very helpful in helping me figure out the math and the gauge to figure out how many stitches I should cast on, because I knew I didn't want to change out my yarn. And I already knew my gauge with this needle size, and I knew if I went down a size, like I already felt like the needle size I was using was kind of a tighter needle for this fabric. And so I felt like it would be uncomfortable to knit on to go down yet another needle size. And so knowing that, I was just like, I want to stick with this needle, so I need to go down the amount of stitches, and how should I do that? And it helped me figure out a much lesser amount of stitches to cast on, and I really think that I nailed it, and I'm so happy with the fit of this hat. At least I hope so. It is measuring out to be like that smaller size. I would usually have made like an adult medium size for myself. However, this does fit me maybe a little bit snug, but it still does fit me. So even if it was something that didn't work out for her, I definitely like it could go to me or it could go to someone else in the family. But yeah, this is another one. I was worried after I blocked it that perhaps it was going to stretch way too much. And so I did put it in the dryer because of the powers of superwash. And I think it was another thing too, where I just really had to be patient and let it fully dry, because it absolutely just like shaped right back up once it was fully dry. One thing that I didn't mention with this sweater that I'm learning about myself, and also I'm learning with the decreases on this, is I think I'm doing my SSKs incorrectly. And I figured that out when I was doing this V, because the way I was doing them, the stitch wasn't looking the same as my knit two togethers. And so I had to like use my crochet hook to do my SSKs to make sure I was doing it correctly. And then I noticed too, when I was doing my decreases on this, that they just like, they're a little bit, you know, they're a little tipsy-turvy. They're still really cute. Like, it's a cute design element. However, I don't think it is 100% correct for the way of knitting, and it's not as neat as my knit two togethers. So what I'm gonna do as well, speaking again of the wonderful Patty Lyons, she has a cool method of how to do SSKs and like how she recommends to do them. And so I'm going to test out how she recommends and see what I can do. I think for me, the absolute like hurdle of my life with knitting is that I'm a left-handed knitter, meaning I knit from left to right. And so, so not just like, so when I say that to some people, they think I mean I just knit continental. That's not true. I knit English style flicking from left to right. And so anytime I'm watching a tutorial or reading a book or anything like that, it has to be flipped. So that's the hardest part, is when I'm reading a tutorial and it's like, put your right hand needle into your left hand. I have to be like, okay, put my left hand into the right hand and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a bummer, but justice for left-handed knitters. Just know it's hard out there for us. And then my second hat that I have here, this is the Great Gingham hat by Jessie Maed. And I made this out of the Sorella, her brand new home line that I got at Flock. And this is like a DK weight to worsted weight superwash yarn. And yeah, I bought this at Flock just because I knew it was going to be something fun coming out in like the knitting space, and I just wanted to test it for all of you and see if I could recommend it or not. And I will say, like, the knitting experience was so fun. I think I kind of went maybe against my better judgment. I don't typically think that like color work is the best for a superwash yarn. But I actually think that this turned out fairly nice looking in terms of, just using like a superwash for color work. And the pattern was written super well. I loved the way it was written. I feel like the dimensions look beautiful. I do think because the pattern was for a DK weight yarn and I used one that was maybe a little bit like that DK to worsted, I felt like at times it was a little bit tight to knit with overall. But yeah, ended up fitting really beautifully. And for both these hats, I'll have some pictures out just because my hair's up. I can't really try it on. But yeah, and this one actually, I feel like I really liked it a little bit better when I had first tried it on and it was a tiny bit slouchier. This is just the theme of my week, that when things fully dry, they kind of scrunch up a tiny bit more. But I feel like it's really, really cute on. And I was a little scared to do a hat that wouldn't have a brim, but I feel like it looks really, really cute on, and is something that I'm going to wear. So yeah, that's the pattern. Pattern's super cute. The decreases on the top are really cool because they're like these, what do you call it? Center, CCD maybe? CDD, center double decrease. I think is what it's called. That's typically what you would do at the bottom of a V-neck. That's what you're doing at the top of this. And you're doing it within the colorwork pattern. So it's a tiny bit confusing, but like no worries. It was easy to kind of pick up once you got in the swing of things and created this really beautiful design detail of all of those kind of, it looks like a slip stitch kind of going down the top, which is really gorgeous. So that is the hat. It's a fairly simple project, keeping in mind that it is just full color work. So it's going to take a little bit longer than you think that it is going to. And my one note too with the yarn is I feel like it was great to knit with, so squishy, so nice. It feels good even now, although it does have quite a little bit of like white fuzzies on the dark colors. I feel like if I was going to choose to knit with the home line again, I would use a light color just because that's the way, I just think it looks better in the lighter colors with those white fuzzies. But my biggest takeaway with this, my biggest really negative is it smelled absolutely terrible when I blocked it. And I'm really not sure why. I was downstairs when I blocked it, and sometimes I'll do this when it's like a hat or something small. I just won't use wool wash. I feel like it's just fine to use just water. And so I put it in water, and I feel like because it didn't have the wool wash to cover up any sort of scents, It was so chemically scented. And the water turned like a really murky, cloudy, which I knew was like from the yarn and not from a soap because I didn't put soap in there. And yeah, it was very, very off-putting. I mean, it smelled terrible. And that's just like my honest review. It's never really like fun to say because what if one day I could have partnered with Sorella? I don't know. It's never fun to like tell the truth about your experience with a certain thing, but I feel like it really, really turned me off to the yarn. And so I probably will not be purchasing from the home line again. And I'm going to be looking out to see if other people have that experience. If they don't, yeah, maybe I would be apt to purchase it again because I had good experiences for the rest of it. But yeah, just it smelled so terrible when it was wet. Really strong. I'm trying to remember what the smell was like. It just smelled chemically to me. And I think it must have been that cashmere style nylon perhaps coming off of the yarn. I'm not really sure. But it was enough to like make me feel uncomfortable right now in recalling it and uncomfortable telling you about it. So that's how bad it was. If it was something insignificant, like I wouldn't tell you. Yeah, I would never say anything if it wasn't something that I felt like was truly a terrible, terrible smell. So yeah, not sure what that is or what was going on with that, but just a little bit kind of bummed about that because I felt like it put a bad taste in my mouth for the experience overall. The good part is now that it's dry, it doesn't smell like it when it's dry. So I'm not sure, honestly, if it would smell like that again if I were to get it wet. So that was that. Never fun to talk about your less super positive experiences, but that's just my like truthful feedback with that yarn. Let me show you, I have one more finished object. Okay, so my last finished object is I finished my other sake. So you may have seen in one of my podcast episodes, I finished one of these socks, and now I just finished my second one as well. And these are knit using Opal sock yarn. It's a 75-25 blend made, I believe this yarn is from Germany. And I absolutely love the feeling of these yarns. I feel like it's such like a hardy sort of sock yarn. Feels really nice to knit with, feels like it's easy to grip, and also just feels like really hardy and nice on the foot as well. I've knit with Opal yarns. I think this is my second or third time. And it's also just so fun, the patterns that they have, and to pick something that's like just so fun like this is great. And then as well for these, I ended up doing a 3x1 rib for a majority of it. Once I got to the foot, I ended up doing just stockinette on the bottom, just so it'd be comfortable to wear on the bottom, and then having that 3x1 rib on the top. And so far they fit really great. I'm excited to continue wearing them. But yeah, that is these socks. I essentially used the Crazy Sock Ladies knitting socks on Magic Loop tutorial, and then I just essentially changed out the 3x1 rib in the places that I wanted to, but for everything else I used the Crazy Sock Ladies tutorial. So that is those. Okay, first I'm gonna talk with you about my kind of like most fun cast on, I think. My whip that's kind of at the forefront right now, and that is the Qanik by Linka Neumann. And I'm knitting this with my friends, and I are doing a Linka Neumann cal. And we're all just like picking a Linka Neumann sweater to knit together on. And so I picked one out of the Wilderness Knits 2 book, and it was one for my husband. So this is how much I have completed so far. I'm so far already. You know why? Because this is a bulky weight yarn and it goes by so fast. So right away, this is a bottom up sweater. Right away, you knit the ribbing. It's so fun because the ribbing is only like 5 rows. Then you get into this beautiful color work chart. And then I've just finished one whole ball of the Alpha Slope, I guess is how you say it, yarn here. So yeah, here you can see a little bit better. But yeah, this is the Qanik. Not a ton to update you on this. This is unique for me because I've never knit with this chunky of a yarn, I think, ever. I am using US 10 needles for the majority of the sweater. However, for the color work, I went up to a US 11, and those just felt so crazy to hold and to do, but it was so fun. Like this color work, I think I finished during one football game. Like watching a Chiefs game or something. And then, yeah, I've just been a little bit going through this green section here. And this is going to be big. It's very much so like jacket-y style. And because the yarn is so thick, I feel like, and it also, like, this garment has a hood, it has some positive ease. And so I'm expecting my husband to wear it a little bit more like a jacket and like an outerwear. And then perhaps like inside as well when he gets cold. But it's really meant to be and act as like an outerwear piece. So yeah, not a ton of things to talk about really with this, like construction wise or anything like that, but just know I'm moving on this and it's fun, and it's fun to see like my husband's so excited that I'm working on something for him again. So that's really fun. I think you will see as well, perhaps, I'm not sure if I'll show this to you or not, but his beautiful green sweater I made him last year, he wants me to add just 1 inch to it as well. And so I keep telling him I'm going to do that for him before it gets cold. So I might have that at the top of my list as well, of things to do for him too. So it might just be a really nice, like, be nice to my husband sort of week. Work on that, add the inch it's to the bottom of his sweater, and get him all ready and warm for the season to come. So that is that whip. Let's see. I do have this next to me as well. This is my stripeless Marseille sweater that I've lovingly been calling it. And I don't believe I've shown it to you all since I joined in the round. So I just wanted you to know it's currently in the round. I am a little bit maybe going to be playing yarn chicken. So this, I am just about finishing 2 balls of yarn and I only have 3 left. So because I'm gambling a little bit, I think what I'm going to do next, right when I finish this ball of yarn, is I'm going to do a sleeve and see just like how far I can get with 1 skein of yarn. And then, you know, depending on that, maybe I'll do the collar next, the other sleeve, and then however much I have left, I'm going to work into the body. And I also think if I do the collar, I might do, because it's supposed to be a folded collar, I might do up to the amount it would be before it would fold. I might put in like just like a piece of string or whatever, and just keep it on hold until I see if I have enough yarn, and then I'll go back and add it in. And I did use this yarn for 2 other swatches, so I have things to frog if we get in really dire situations. Not a lot, but a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm going to be good. It's just, it's always a little bit like, oh, a little scary when you're not really sure how things are going to go. But yeah, let me show you this a little bit up close. This is some really beautiful 100% lamb's wool yarn that comes from a farm just about 20 minutes from me. So super, super fun. It's in this beautiful espresso colorway. And yeah, again, like not a ton to update you on this one, but I just wanted to tell you that I was in the round. I have it in my really cute project bag that I sewed. And it makes me happy. And I'm really, really hoping that we don't have a yarn chicken game to play, but I think that I'm gonna know whether or not we're playing yarn chicken based off how much yarn I use in a sleeve. So that is to come soon to figure out. Okay, those are my 2 main. I guess I did just cast on, let me see. I just cast on one other whip as well. And that is just another pair of socks. This is just going to be a vanilla sock. And I'm going to be using the Sorella sock yarn. And this is in their flannel colorway. I think it's called vintage flannel. This is another one of those skeins that I got at Flock that I felt like would just be so fall and needed to be in my purse and carried around like for the month of October, of course. So what I have here is just the very tip top start of it. So yeah, this is just beginning here. And I had my friend Courtney as well just brought me this really fun bag from La Mercerie. So this is a little bit of an acquisition. I just went to La Mercerie when I went to Flock in Seattle, but I didn't see this bag there. And she went just like a short while later, and she sent this picture to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, can you please get me one? Because I love orca whales, and of course, like I've been there. It felt like such a fun souvenir, and just like a really nice canvasy bag as well. So kind of fun. Keeping my sock in here. This is like my nice little sock pouch for my purse. And let's see, I have a couple of yarn acquisitions, and then I have a couple of swatches and a couple more cast-ons. Can you even believe this is the state of this podcast right now? I was like dreading all morning sitting down to do this because I was like, how am I even going to organize this podcast when my brain isn't even organized? So just know, if this feels a little chaotic, I'm sorry. That's like just the way that the cookie is crumbling right now. That's just the way my brain feels. So one thing, of course, just released today, The Life of a Showgirl came out, and so I had to purchase some yarn from Junction Fiber Mill. They came out with The Life of a Showgirl yarn and their beautiful sport weight color changing yarn. And this is that gorgeous same base that I used for my shift cowl. I absolutely love their yarns. I love the way that my shift just kind of has structure, and I just feel like they do such a good job with their yarns. So yeah, this is gorgeous. It features like kind of some of those really nice colors from Life of a Showgirl with the orange and the teal, but then it also kind of breaks out into some, I would say like some purpley grays, and also some more like salmon-y tones. So really pretty. I'm kind of thinking so far that I would love to use this in a tessellated vest or a tessellated pullover, but I don't have like super solid plans for this yet. So that is that yarn. And then another purchase that I made this week is the Spincycle Dyed in the Wool. Apparently I'm just super into these color changing yarns right now, but I saw this on their Instagram and I was just like, I just really want to get something fun for the month of October because it had a lot of my favorite colors in it. Because my favorite colors, again, similar to that Life of a Showgirl, like anything like the teals, the greens, the browns, and then the oranges, like those are just Jackie colors. So I was like, I feel like I should get this in and have some fun with it for the month of October because I don't have anything else orange going on my needles. And I think the Life of a Showgirl probably won't be cast on, maybe sometime for this spring. And so I decided to cast on a really tiny, I think I have it in here. So I cast on a little traveler. So this is a traveler cowl, and I'm making this again just because I love my other shift cowl so much. You guys know I have yarn for so many Andrea Mowry cowls because I just like can't get enough of her. But I thought that this would be fun to use all three skeins in this shift cowl just because I would be able to like fully showcase these colors that I love in this cowl and kind of have them be the main showstopper with a little bit of texture in there, like with the kind of garter-y stripes that are happening in the Traveler. But yeah, so stay tuned for a little bit more on that. Then I also have, I bought some more yarn that I actually don't have in here. I bought some more colors of the Roma Fennel for my color work that I'm having to frog that you guys have been so kind to me about and so sad as well. But I bought some more colors just to see like, hey, should I switch it up? You know, anytime you have to restart a sweater, it's a good time to just reevaluate like, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Do I love my colors? Do I not? And so I've just been swatching. Let me get this off there. I've just been swatching with some of the new colors that I purchased. And so just know, like, this hasn't been blocked yet, so this isn't actually fully what it is going to look like. And I'm also not going to be using these colors in this same way. I was just kind of testing it. I feel like what ended up happening is it looks a little too Western to me. So I'm gonna go to the drawing board and see like what I think. But essentially I wanted to take the same sweater that I was knitting and just incorporate a tiny bit more of like teals and greens, since those are my favorite colors, and feel more me. The one that I was making before just felt very, very traditional and I loved it, but I really just kind of wanted something a little bit more fun, a little bit more me for my current mood. No one is saying like maybe in the future I might make something ultra traditional again, but it's funny when you're knitting like how your moods change through different seasons. And like where I'm at right now is I just really want to create something that feels a little bit more just like you see it and you're like, oh, that's so Jackie, those colors, which caused me to purchase a few more colors. But again, Patty Lyons, I did a really cool, new to me sort of swatch technique to get in the round. The past in the round swatch techniques I did was where you were kind of having the yarn go back and forth, and so it would go all the way across the swatch. And this time I'm really just like taking the needle, all like pushing it all the way back to the front. I'm bringing enough slack back and sort of knitting it that way. I'll link another tutorial for that as well, because I'm sure those words made absolutely no sense to you, but don't worry, I'll link that in the description box as well for you. It was so helpful for me, and I'm excited to do that technique again for colorwork swatches. So just know progress on that to come. I'm gonna block it and see what size needles I should be doing now to get the correct gauge for that cardigan. And then I'm gonna cast on, I already know my 2 background colors, you know, so I can really get going on it and kind of spend some time really charting out my colors, seeing exactly what I wanna go for round 2. And so yeah, stay tuned to see what I select for that. Next, I have one more swatch cast on, and then one more, I guess 2 more swatches, and then I'll end with a last swatch here. So this swatch now, this is for the Nightlights shawl. And for this, I'm using 2 different yarns. One is Newborough Yarn Co. I'll have to leave the exact yarns on the screen. And the other one is a Spincycle, a little bit of their thicker yarn. And I have these 2 here as well. They are just so, so beautiful. I really love these colors together. And I did my little swatch, I blocked it, I realized I do need to go up a needle size, and I have since cast it on. So this is what I have so far. It's a really cool motif. It's almost like stripes, where every so often you're slipping a stitch for multiple rows, and on the last one of that row, you're incorporating it all into the purls. And so it's pretty easy. I feel like right now I am on a certain stitch repeat that I was able to memorize with kind of like breaking it down. My number one tip for you, if you're struggling with memorizing a repeat, is to like screenshot it or print it out and really highlight the differences between the rows and rewrite it out for something that like makes sense to you. That always super helps me to just focus on the things that I need to focus on, and then I'm more easily able to memorize it. So yeah, now I'm at a portion where I have memorized what I have going on, and I'm excited to continue in that. So more on that one to come. That's just a little baby project right now as it's just begun. And then lastly is another really fun swatch. So this is knit out of one skein of, it's a sock yarn, Maed yarns, and then another skein of, it's like a very fluffy, it's called a cloud, their base is called Cloud, and is like a mix of alpaca, yak, all that. So I'll include these on the screen. But for this, I realized after my swatch that I would need to go down a needle size. So for both my swatches, this one I need to go up, this one I need to go down. And this is just like such a beautiful, nice, flowy fabric. I'm going to be making a cardigan with this. This is, again, that was one that was featured in my fall knitting plans video. And so yeah, I'm excited about the way that this is knit up. It feels like so nice and drapey and beautiful and like cranberry sauce. Like when I saw this, I was like, oh, I hope I finish that by Thanksgiving, because I think this would just be like a beautiful Thanksgiving sort of sweater to wear. Okay, looking around my craft room right now, like, Jackie, are you sure you caught everything? I did do a lot of quilting as well since I've talked with you. I will keep that to another podcast episode just because it's a little bit all in an array on my cutting desk right now. But just know I did finish all of my little tiny snowflake blocks. Thank goodness. That has been weighing on me ever since I started the project. There's like a bunch of those little tiny ones where there were so many. I think there was like 28, but it took a long time to finish one and they were little and it just felt like it was weighing on me. So how exciting that I finished those. I have a couple of really fun kind of star blocks I'm working on right now. And I'm trying to just like set up my days to make it a little bit more of a priority to work on it each day. Cause I'm kind of like, you know, like the snowman doesn't want to be melted anymore. He wants to experience the winter with me. So yeah, need to work on that. And yeah, I think other than that, that's all I got for you. Like I said, like kind of a chaotic making time with finishing so many things, swatching for so many things, kind of trying to decide what to cast on first. I have two Andrea Mowry, like I have a shawl and a cowl, both on the needles at once with changing color yarns. So I'm gonna need to figure out like how am I gonna differentiate those in my brain. I also have like that really thick jacket on my needles, so it's funny, so funny to work on that with those huge needles and then go back and work on the really tiny. It honestly feels good on my hands, but it is funny to work back and forth on those. And then I do just have like that nice Marseille sweater in the round, and I'm really hoping to finish out a sleeve, maybe even this weekend, just to like enjoy some nice knitting time. So yeah, that's everything that I have for you guys today. I'm so excited because tonight I get to go to the Taylor Swift movie, like see her new premiere for her music video, and just have some fun like listening to the album that weekend. So I hope that the rest of you have a great start to your week, and I'll see you all in the next video. I actually have a really cool like partnership video I'm working on for you all, like just a little sneak peek. It's something to do with your old scraps, like a bunch of scraps that you have, a little project to do with those. So stay tuned for that, and otherwise I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.